everyone, thanks for joining our final live session today. This is our general Q&A, so any questions that you have about Ravensbourne University, please do ask them. My name is Rois and I'm joined today by Alberto, Programme Director and Course Leader for Architecture, and Joseph, who has come to us from the admissions team today. So please do pop your questions in the comments and we'll put them to Joseph and Alberto. But we've got some questions already started to come through. So Alberto, this is probably a good one for you. What opportunities are there for students from different courses to work together?
Well, I would say that one of the aims of the institution and one of the elements that make this institution so special and different to others is like we are always looking forward to create collaborations between the students and departments. Then the idea of having this kind of interdisciplinarity, we believe that that is what it creates, what is going to be the profession of the future. Then we know that in the next 10 years, by 2030, we are expecting that the 70% of the jobs that are happening nowadays in industry are going to change completely. Then having students that are in creative industries that are ready to collaborate between them is one of the things that we do. Sometimes could be with briefs where we bring, for example, an architecture student with a games designer student creating a virtual environment. Sometimes could be like job opportunities, or when industry comes to us, we bring them in clusters. Then the institution is all the time looking for those kind of collaborations, and that is what we do.
And what about the electives? Can you talk us through what that is?
Yeah, well, the electives is an opportunity where, for example, the architecture department hasn't been that involved before, but what they is bringing all the students together through different topics where they can research, they can bring their ideas, they can create their journey, and they can express and reflect on what they are doing during that journey with us.
Brilliant, thanks Alberto.
To be fair, just to touch on Alberto as well, what makes Ravensbourne a lot different to most institutions is because we are, a digitalized, creative sort of institution. There's always scope to, work and collaborate with other students. So, for example, say if you wanted to put on a fashion show, you need music, so you can easily go to your friend who's studying music and sound design to put some sort of music on a track for the show. Let's say, for example, we want some animations during the show, you can go to someone that's studying animations to produce something for the show at the same time. So there is a lot of scope in terms of being able to work in the collaboration with other students at Rave.
And you've touched on quite a few courses there,
yeah.
Joseph. So if students want to apply, let's say a UK student applying for either a foundation or an undergraduate course, how do they go about that?
Okay, so in terms of the foundation course, it is a lot different to the undergraduate course. So we have our own internal portal at Rave here. So if you go onto the website, and then there should be a big button in the top right, apply. So you just put in your details, the basic information at first will be required, so just your name and email address. And then when you actually open the portal, you require further information, so your qualifications and what sort of foundation course you're looking to study. So currently at Rave, we've got 3 different sort of foundation courses. We've got fashion textiles, media production, and design and media. So they're all the core subjects, the core structure of the course is quite similar. There's just different pathways and gateways just to get an understanding for when you want to go into the undergraduate level, what sort of course you want to take. And also in terms of, the undergraduate course, most applications are submitted via UCAS. So it's just, putting your details in again in UCAS, qualifications you're taking, previous immigration history and all the sort of, questions that are required from UCAS. And yeah, and then once you submit your application, it ultimately comes to someone like me on my team. And what we do is we give you your conditional offer. So everyone, in order to try to process the application as quick as possible, what we try to do is give every student who applies a conditional offer, and the conditions will be based on, 1, attend an academic interview, and then 2, achieving the academic grades and requirements. So in terms of booking your interviews, pretty much a self-service. You use the link provided, go on the website, click the time and date you want, and then you pick, and then all the information, confirmation will be sent via email. You get your Zoom link via email, so yeah.
And Alberto, how do the interviews work for an undergraduate course? What will the student experience on their interview?
Well, what we try to do is creating a safe environment. We understand that for an applicant it's like a moment where they feel sometimes some kind of anxiety. Sometimes you never have seen an applicant they haven't had an interview before. I can tell you how I approach to them. I'm mainly not interested in asking many questions, then I don't even consider that an interview. It has that name, but I always say at the beginning, this is a meeting. between you and I, and what we need to make sure is what we discover if this is the right journey for you, because in the end we don't gain anything if we are not sure that the applicant feels that this is the right place for them. Then I usually tend to ask why Ravensbourne. I mean, I think if the applicant really understands what he or she can do working with us, that is a very important part of the interview. After that, I just prefer to use the time for questions from the applicant. Obviously, I go through the portfolio, I know that portfolio in advance. Sometimes we can discuss the portfolio, why you decided to do this, or usually the applicant can explain you, but it's more like a journey where we want to make sure that it's about the conversation, and in a conversation is where naturally both of us, we are going to realize if this could be the right journey. That is our approach in the Department of Architecture. It's like, we know your portfolio before, we want to know why Ravensbourne, but we are going to discuss with you, and we're going to be open for that conversation with you.
And just to touch on what Alberto said, what we try to stress to students and any applicants that do apply, that most of the time what people don't realise is that they might apply for a course and have the mindset, okay, cool, I want to study architecture, but what their portfolio might show is that perhaps, you know, your skill sets are more suited for another course that you might have not realised. So somebody like Alberto looking at your portfolio can say, okay, cool, you apply for architecture, but you know, most of your work seems transferable to perhaps, have you considered, you know, let's say graphic design, or, you know, even motion graphics, which is sometimes a lot of students don't understand the difference between the courses, and having the opportunity to sit there with an academic with your portfolio is actually a good way to help you to actually make a final decision in terms of what course is actually best for you. And you shouldn't take that as a, you know, feel discouraged in terms of, oh, I'm not getting my first choice course. It's just that we want to put students in the best position to complete the year. We don't want anyone to, you know, be pulling out the course after 2 months, after the novelty's worn off and they've realised, you know what, this course actually isn't for me. So this is why we actually stress to students that it's important that you produce a portfolio.
And so, Joseph, your courses that you kind of cover tend to submit more of a show reel.
Yeah.
So can you talk us through what a show reel is and what students should kind of put in
Okay, so in terms of a show reel, that's mainly for courses such as editing, post-production, digital television and film production. So, I mean, we don't expect anyone to be Steven Spielberg, because most people that do come to Ravensbourne have no, you know, previous experience in any sort of creative field at all. So most people might be coming from humanities, studied fashion, studied history, science, or whatever course it is. So the show reel is just really and truly just to show an element of creativity and understanding of why you want to study this course, and it kind of helps us to identify, okay, cool, this is somebody that's engaged in this subject, and he or she is able to, you know, complete the duration of the 3 years.
And Alberto, what about portfolios? What do you look for in a portfolio? What do you know other academics like to see?
I think we invite applicants always to put anything related to their creativity. I mean, and just for example, even if you are applying to study architecture, if you like photography, I really would love to understand how you see the world. Then I think it's more about demonstrating your capacity of observing what is happening around you. No one is expecting that you know how to do something before you join. That is the reason why you are coming to university. You're going to be at your journey with us, you're going to learn how to do it. Then for us it's more important to understand what kind of skills in terms of observing the world. I mean, have you tried to sketch what is happening around you? What are the kind of things that you are reading? What are the kind of photographies, movies? And all these disciplines are in a way related, and something that Joseph was mentioning earlier that is quite true is like we don't have very high requirements in entrance, because this is not about how good you are in one specific thing. We are not looking for someone that is an expert in mathematics or history. We are going to try to advise you in what is the journey and the pathway that you can follow, and maybe I can be interviewing an applicant and I can suggest, have you considered like product design, because you're a person that you really like to do prototyping and making, and maybe in the architecture area you can do it also, but maybe with these specifications. Then that is one of the reasons where there is a space for everyone at Ravensbourne to develop their career, and it's more having a conversation to realize what can you do with your interests and the skills that you really want to build. Then after that it's just a conversation. Obviously sometimes you see applicants that they have amazing and beautiful drawings. Sometimes you see applicants that they try to push themselves in a digital environment, trying to use 3D software, etc. But I have seen also amazing photographies, watercolors, small sketches. Anything is valuable, and we observe all that. Is for us is an opportunity to have a conversation.
And just to touch on Alberto what was saying as well, so the reason why Rave, we're heavily influenced in terms of making a decision based on your portfolio, because you can, for some reason, you can have a bad year, and we understand that does happen, and you cannot meet the academic requirements. But if your portfolio is strong enough and it speaks for itself, we're more than happy to make an offer based on your portfolio. So that's the beauty of Rave compared to other institutions. So yeah.
And we've talked about that maybe you would recommend another undergraduate course. Joseph, does it happen that we might recommend students start on foundation instead, and why would that happen?
Well, one course that's pretty known for recommending foundation to a lot of students is fashion. Fashion is one of our most subscribed courses here at Ravensbourne, frontier courses in terms of interest. So a lot of the times is what we'd actually suggest to an applicant is maybe perhaps looking at a foundation, and it's not just always the case of okay, you wasn't good enough to start the course. Some people just generally don't have the confidence to start an undergraduate course straight away. So what we'd always recommend to them is that perhaps figure out your options then in terms of doing a foundation course, and that actually in turn might even help you identify what sort of undergraduate course you want to go on to. And what I always say to people that want to do foundation is that it's actually, to an extent, you might be surprised how intense the foundation course is compared to your first year of undergraduate, because what foundation does for you is prepares you for your undergraduate. So it, in a sense, it kind of chucks you in the deep end. So a lot of people do find themselves in a better position after doing the foundation year than coming to undergraduate.
May I add something there? I think what Joseph is saying is very important, and sometimes we recommend that because the foundation course, for example, when I see the students that they have gone through the foundation course and they progress into our undergraduate courses, those usually are the stronger students.
Yeah.
And I'm using strong in a way that, we don't try to discriminate. This is not about who is the best, but it's that about the students that they feel a more consolidated position, understanding what they want to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes we recommend that because it's a very good opportunity to explore and build your skills, to explore I completely understand that if you can be 17, 18 years old and not knowing is my future about fashion, but I like architecture, I like photography. Why you don't take a year to build those skills and then decide after this is the journey that I want to follow? That is why many times in this conversation, this interview, we are not offering the foundation because we don't believe in the qualities of that applicant. It's more because sometimes people need time. And as Joseph was saying at the beginning of this conversation, sometimes it's better that you can take a decision feeling that you are informed than waiting or going into a course 2 months and saying this is not for me. Then that is one of the things that we try to avoid at Ravensbourne. We don't want anyone losing time. The time is valuable. Then it's how do you invest it? Having a foundation year, it doesn't mean that you're going to waste 1 year of your time because you want to progress an undergraduate, etc. It's about how you invest, how you're building your skills. Then sometimes we really recommend that. And the work that my foundation colleagues are doing is incredibly amazing.
And Joseph, for our foundation students, is it easy for them to then apply to undergraduate at Ravensbourne?
Well, the policy that we currently have at Rave is subject to successfully completing the foundation course, you're eligible for any undergraduate course of your choice. So upon successful completion, the world's your oyster in terms of Rave. You can go to any undergraduate course that you wish to.
Brilliant, thank you. Let's move on a bit. We've kind of talked about this, we've touched on it briefly, but Alberto, what would you say makes Ravensbourne different from other universities?
Well, I'm going to maybe repeat myself here with one of the conversations that we were having live recently, but I think it's about finding your own voice. I personally think that when we analyze the work that other institutions are doing, there are amazing institutions out there, better reputation, even better programs sometimes, why not to say it? But many students, at least when I observe what they do in architecture, they end their 3 years doing the same kind of projects, all of them. For us, joining our courses is about the idea of developing your own voice. and finding what are your areas of interest. And I think doing that through a journey where you are able to collaborate, to learn, to be open to the world, we reinforce a lot the idea of a community. We are not courses where we are massively subscribed by 500 applicants per course, students per course, because we don't think that would make education accessible or interesting for them. Then community, having their own voice, and also focusing on what elements you can bring to a social environment with your projects. In architecture, we do a lot of social architecture year 3. We really want to understand that, for example, our students, they design for the people. Then here a student is not going to be a number. Yeah. And I have been in institutions, even when I was a student, where you were assigned a number, and people will call you by your number. You have your name. You grab a coffee with your tutor, you grab a coffee with your colleagues, you share experiences, and I think that makes Ravensbourne incredibly special.
And just to touch on what Alberto was saying, in the sense of having a smaller cohort, it actually helps. We feel like it helps students a lot better because, you know, the learning can be more tailor-made. Like what Alberto was saying, I've been in a university an institution where I sat 300 deep in the class, and I promise you not, the lecturer probably didn't even know my name. So whereas if you're in a smaller cohort here, Alberto could, you know, literally can bump into you in the cafe and say, oh look, you can use this for your project, or, you know, make the learning more tailor-made and more specific for students, and actually have, like you said, have a voice, and then have the opportunity to, you know, collaborate and speak easier. So yeah, definitely. And another thing that I would say about what makes Rave a lot different from most institutions is, you know, the fact that even though our requirements are a lot lower, which is not a bad thing, but the opportunity that you can also have the opportunity to come into an undergraduate course based on your portfolio, not just on your academic, you know, grades. Because at the end of the day, creative subjects, you can't really put academic standards on creativity. So that's what makes Rave a lot different from most institutions.
Thanks, Joseph. And Alberto, because it's a smaller university, because we have these smaller class sizes, do you find that results in students being more engaged or having more opportunities, perhaps?
Well, I think connecting with what Joseph was saying, the idea that when you are able to tailor a bit more the way that you deliver, that generates more opportunities. Then obviously when you are a smaller institution, your staffing sometimes is smaller, but one thing that, for example, we do is like all our staff, or most of us, we are practitioners at the same time. And for example, in that kind of tailored education that you're giving to the students, you are also engaging them with industry. Then the idea of being a small institution, look into specific cases and groups of students with industry opportunities, make us that also our numbers in industry engagement and industry opportunity for our graduates are so high. And I believe that during the last years has been over 96% of our students have been able to find a job after being with us. Then that is kind of interesting, and I think it would be very challenging in a very big institution.
Yeah, 90% is our most recent stats on employability or further study within 6 months of graduation, so still fantastically high. And we kind of touched on employability there, industry. Joseph, can you elaborate on how students have employability embedded while they're at Ravensbourne?
Well, in terms of Rave, what we have something called incubation, which gives, you know, any graduates the opportunity, if they want to start their own businesses, that is actually moved over to the design district just around the corner. So that's one thing that Rave tries to do in terms of encourage, you know, industry and employability, and just being independent yourself, because a lot of the time being in a creative industry, it's just about, you know, having the opportunity and the space to, you know, to be able to carry out your creativity and do work that you need to get done. And that's what the design district and the incubation tries to do, and help and support students who need any help. So yeah, and in terms of, you know, courses like fashion, you know, after second year you have the opportunity to go out into industry and have a year out and then get first-hand experience and stuff.
Anything to add there, Alberto?
I mean, yeah, well, Joseph has been touching in one of the best points to talk about, that is the incubation, but also we have other elements. The student services has a very strong team looking into the careers and advice support, having what is called the agency, where jobs are in a weekly basis updated there. I think having the creative lab embedded in what we do, the creative lab try to engage with industry companies that they come to university to say, we would like to do this, we have this brief, they are the client, and then we can bring the students to do that with them. But also, as we were discussing in the previous question, being a smaller institution allow us to engage with industry partners easily. One of our students that is going to graduate in the following weeks, she now has a job that she's going to start in Foster & Partners, that is probably one of the best architecture firms around the world. Then all that happens in a kind of one-to-one contact with elements in industry, and in the end happens naturally, because also even in the academic briefs that our students are doing, what we're trying to embed is like the exercise is going to be maybe with a partner in industry. And sometimes our students are going to be designing in interior architecture as a space for a real brand that is out there in London, and they really want our students to explore that with them.
Brilliant, thank you. And Joseph, maybe going a bit more general here, but what advice would you give to a student if, we asked this question before, but we went to current students, so now coming from you is, what advice would you give students who are just at the start of their university application process? So they're just starting to think, okay, so I want to go to university in September 2022. What advice would you give them? What should they be doing at this stage?
The best advice I would say is do extensive research into the course that you're going to study, because, you know, the worst thing, like I mentioned before, is, you know, to start a course and then 2 months later to just realise, you know, it's not for you. I mean, university's not for everyone, so what the best advice I could give to someone is, you know, do your research. And especially if you want to come into the creative industry, what I always try to say to people is, every time I go on a convention is, you know, even if you don't pick rave, pick London, because, you know, in terms of the creative industry, London is the creative hub. You know, so if you're in and around London in terms of being a creative student, what better way to? It's much easier to engage in people and to make connections, because, you know, your network is your net worth. So that's one advice I'll give to students.
Brilliant. And Alberto, what do you look for in a student? What are kind of some ideal qualities that you get from a student, perhaps on your course?
I think the energy is it's not about the skills, it's about someone that that wants to learn, wants to join, wants to discover. I think having students that are curious about what they are doing is one of the best qualities. Then their first year with us is going to be about experimenting, it's about experiencing, it's about building. Then it doesn't matter about how good are you doing something. We are not looking to have applicants that they are students that they join us and they are, oh, I'm the best one drawing and doing this. We are looking for someone that can develop the journey. Then if they come with the energy and also they are open to collaborate. This is a journey that if you want to do on your own and you really don't want to look around you and understand that people around you, they have stories, people around you, they have experience, people around you, they have different lives. If you don't do that, it's going to be a different journey. But if you do that, I think that is the best experience, and that is what we are going to be looking forward to seeing in our students, that the curiosity and the capacity of collaborate.
Thanks, Alberto. We've got a few minutes left, so if you do have any questions, please put them in our comments section. We've got quite a specific question, which I am going to take to you, Alberto. Students asking, on the ARB website, the Master of Architecture course that we offer here at Ravensbourne isn't there. Is that right? And would it be a problem to join the Register of Architects if our Master of Architecture course isn't on there?
Yeah, well, our Master of Architecture is not accredited by ARB at the moment. We are going to be working on validating the course to obtain that accreditation. Then obviously if someone joins us to study, at the end of the 2 years, they will have a course that is touching all the elements that the ARB is going to be expecting, but they are going to need to go to ARB to prepare and request their accreditation.
But there's still an opportunity there.
There is still an opportunity there, and we engage with the students, preparing them for the standards that the ARB is expecting. It's just a matter of, it's a process that takes time, then we are working on that at the moment.
Got it, thank you. I just thought, seeing as we've got you here and we've got that specific
No,
question,
thank
we'll
you.
get to it. Joseph, you talked about the Institute, you touched on that earlier. Can you just explain what the Institute is and maybe what the Design District is?
The Design District is just a new building that was opened just around the corner. It's just, I feel like it's an opportunity for Rave to, you know, to help students more, and even external parties that want to, you know, set up shop and you know, just develop businesses or any ideas that they have. So that's what the Design District is basically there for. So yeah.
I can add something there also. Then the idea of the Design District is very exciting. 16 new buildings designed by 8 different architecture firms in the heart of the Greenwich Peninsula, 30 seconds away from the underground station, and Ravensbourne is having one of those 16 buildings, and that is going to mean that the other 15 are going to be spaces and hubs for creative people that are going to have their businesses, are going to be for other creative institutions that they can collaborate with us, are going to be spaces also like that can work like in a kind of system like the WeWork spaces, and our students are going to be able to be part of that. And I think it's one of the most exciting opportunities. We have been the first building opening in the Design District because it's still under construction, and we just can't wait to have the fully Design District operating, to see how our students and also our staff can collaborate with what is going to be happening there.
Thanks, Alberto. We've got a few minutes left here, so more of a specific question for you, Joseph. If I'm an international student, how would I go about applying to Ravensbourne?
Okay, so again, if you're an international student, if you're studying undergraduate, it differs a little bit. You can apply via UCAS, or you can, again, apply directly through to us through our portal. Just a few things that you've got to be aware of is that, in terms of if you're an international student, we need a £5,000 cash deposit in order to, you know, get your visa approved and all the above. You also need to meet the English requirement, and if for undergraduate it's 5.5 throughout all elements of the IELTS. There is other English other English equivalent tests that we do accept. I think PTE, Pearson's, Cambridge as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to look on the website in terms of which ones we do accept. In terms of international students, what else can I really give to you? So you're required to attend a Accreditation interview, which is just more an interview one of the admissions teams, just to get an understanding of why you want to study at Rave, and if you're actually a genuine student that's looking to generally come into the UK to study here. And in terms of, the only thing I would say about international students is as well is that you need to make sure the courses that you're studying is equivalent to a level 3 course in the UK. So what you might want to do is, you know, have a look on UCAS or even NARIC, have a look in there, and then see if your course that you're currently studying overseas is equivalent to a level 3 in the UK before you making the application, because you need to have the level 3 qualification in order to gain access on the course. So yeah.
Brilliant. Do you have many international students on your course? Is it popular at all, or do you know there's lots of international students on other courses at all, Alberto?
Yeah, I mean, architecture has been in the past a predominant course, for example, having many UK-based students, but I think what has been always interesting is welcoming, I mean, for the Master of Architecture, for example, in the last 2 weeks I have interviewed applicants from Italy, from the Middle East. We have interviewed applicants from Nigeria, from Spain, from the UK. Then it's always like very open for international students, and that also creates a kind of an amazing journey. Recently we were discussing in our team the dissertations that our students were writing, and some of them they were writing about their countries of origin. Then we were reading about Somaliland and the architecture of women, for example, happening there, what happened in Burkina Faso. Then it's usually a very international and open culture. And we always welcome international students and EU students, yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks both. Well, that's about all we've got time for today. So hopefully you did find it useful. Thank you to Alberto and for Joseph for joining me today. I hope you all found it useful, particularly how you can go about applying to Ravensbourne, how the interview process works, and our portfolios and showreels as well. If you do have any more questions, please email hello@rave.ac.uk and we'll be able to answer your questions as soon as possible. But that's it from us for our virtual section of the Open Day. So hopefully you've all enjoyed it. Have a nice Saturday evening, everyone.